Hey guys, this is Andrew with the Appalachian Outdoorsman. If you're tuning into the Latched On podcast, I assume you're already following or you've already subscribed. If you haven't, make sure to tune in to our YouTube channel and subscribe. Like or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to view all of our content. Our website is a hub for all of this, including new blog posts and a way of listening to the podcast and viewing our YouTube channel videos. Our website is appalachianoutdoors.wixsite.com/appalachianoutdoors. Check out all of our content, and we will see you in the woods.
Welcome to the Latched On Podcast.
Welcome to the Latched On Podcast. The Latched On Podcast is about the outdoors in Appalachia. Everything from hunting, fishing, camping, hiking, bushcraft, and woodsmanship, and digging into the depths of what makes this area of Appalachia so unique as a whole. It's time to strap in for the Latched On Podcast. So, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Latched On Podcast with Andrew and Zach. This is going to be our first official video podcast, hopefully if everything pans out with the camera equipment and all that stuff, and we are in Mobile Studio B.
Yeah.
So, first of all, a little bit of housekeeping. If anybody listened to our episode 11 about elk in Appalachia, me and Zach did not draw any elk tag in Virginia. So, unfortunate there.
Yeah,
but,
congratulations to the guys that did get it.
yeah, and I did not draw any of my elk tags in Kentucky, which is no surprise, but ain't no big deal. It's always next year. Ain't no fuss, no muss. Let's see, housekeeping-wise, turkey season's over. We've started a little preliminary scouting. Kind of left June alone.
Yeah.
Because I just never go in the woods anyway because I let the fawns get born and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But we went out a couple days ago and went back here on some national forest and had some good promising sign.
Absolutely.
So, like, describe to me in your own words what we were looking for and what we saw.
So that mission was because I run one, so I have one cell cam. So in our area, we have a lot of issues with cell phone signal anyway, and let alone cell cams, because they don't, in my experience, they don't even get good enough service as the
Especially
regular
on
cell
public
phone does.
land.
And then, yeah, our public land, we hunt pretty deep, and it's a pretty gnarly places. So we had to go to a specific piece that we frequented in last year, and there's some good deer in there, but primarily because it has decent cell phone signal. So we went back there, and we were implementing some of what Jake Bush has been, the kind of his style, which is hunting, finding the hubs, finding the scrapes, hub scrapes, and then the community scrape, and then finding where the bucks bed off of that hub, like on the different ridges that surround it, depending on what your winds and everything are. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it, but that's me listening to all kinds of different people and how they work, and how they scout and how they kill deer. When I started listening to Jake Bush, that made a lot of sense to me. In my brain, it really, I'm able to find what he's talking about on e-scouting, and once I get there. So if it makes sense in my head, it works better, obviously. So that's what I've been doing, and I'm going to try and hit it like that.
You got me into Jake Bush's podcast, Latitudes in Session.
Yep.
I've listened to it about every morning I go into work, or when he releases an episode. Learned a lot of the useful information. Bo Martonik's
he's another guy. He's not as specific on hubs, but he's big on buck bedding.
And since he's a mountain hunter just like us, it's a lot of useful information for us to know.
Yeah, and Jake Bush is a mountain hunter too in Ohio. So.
Exactly. And of course, our friends over at Pine Mountain Outdoors, they good podcast coming out of them, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if you want to know how to scout, how to find deer, you got to listen to all these podcasts because there's a lot of useful information.
Yeah, if you want to know more, I mean, listen to other people because they have good intel. I mean, I never thought about the hubs. I've found scrapes and hubs before, but I never knew how to piece it all together. I'd found all those puzzle pieces in the past, but it was nice listening to
Jake.
Jake.
Connecting the dots.
Exactly, yeah. He pieced it together for me, and like I said, that made a lot of sense to me. I like Bo's way too, but his way is a little bit, in my brain, it's just a little more difficult for me to find the sign that he's looking for. So I used his last year, and that's kind of what helped me kill my buck last year. Yeah. But I'm gonna try most of my tactics this year are going to be on the hubs, and that's what I'm going to focus on because we have hubs everywhere too, and because we're pretty deep in the Appalachians here.
Once you notice like what
you're looking for,
and what you're looking for, you start It's like seeing, like, you buy a new car, and then you start seeing that same car everywhere
Yep,
on the road.
that's exactly
just,
right.
It's just subconsciously in your brain. So once you know what you're looking for,
Yep.
it's there. And a big thing I noticed about our scouting trip is we took the tram road, and then we got off track into the bottom where we thought the hubs were going to be. We might have saw some scrapes, but they were probably not. They're probably not ready to be scraped yet. But we saw potential bedding. We saw a lot of scat and old historic rubs.
Yeah, we found quite a bit of rubs.
That was the big.
Yeah, we didn't find like that, that community scrape that they're supposedly use year round in that specific hub, but that was also like a huge hub. So I'm thinking maybe that one was just too big because that one was super easy to pick up on the map.
A lot of pinch points on that too.
A lot of weird pinch points, and then it got really thick, which is a problem in our area. It can get thick really quick. Yeah, you did get bee
stung by 2 bees. I don't know what they were,
and
I didn't die.
But maybe I'm gonna try and find like some smaller points off that hub and see if I can't find that community scrape somewhere. Yeah. And but we'll go back in. But that was kind of a speed day. But we did get that camera hung. I did make a mock scrape in a different hub.
You did, and that was actually a point that me and you hunted. There's an episode actually on our YouTube channel where me and you bow hunted the last day of archery season before rifle season kicked in. You put a trail camera right there, pretty much in that same general area where you hung your saddle last year. So we know that area is frequented because we found a lot of rubs walking toward that area.
Yeah, so I made a mock scrape, and I know that tactic works sometimes.
When in doubt, make a mock.
Yeah, I mean
that's all you can do.
Yeah, I got some of the synthetic because we have to use synthetic in Virginia. It's just some synthetic mock. Just random whatever brand. It was on sale for like $3 right after season.
Right.
So it cost me $3 to make that scrape. So, and then I just put my camera up on it. Already got a doe that come and checked it out.
Oh, that's all. I was actually going to ask you if you've caught anything.
Since
we
the
night
4 days ago. It might have been the same night actually. I think a doe come through at like 5:30. Well, the next morning. It was like 5:30 next morning.
I'd say in the next little bit, especially in the next month, they'll start being frequented a lot more.
I think so.
Especially in the evenings.
Sometimes they just don't take. I've heard people make mock scrapes and they just don't take to them. They might not, but it's still a pretty decent travel corridor. They should still move through there. So hopefully we can at least just get some inventory.
And a big thing that this kind of goes back to earlier episodes when we were turkey hunting last spring, not last year. It was this year. We found a good. What potentially could have been a hub scrape in that piece of national forest property where we bumped that hen.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That you.
Because that was a good scrape. I forgot about that.
You made your mark on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which that's also another tactic. If you find a hub like that and it's not, and you gotta use the facilities, it's probably a good idea to use the facilities on that hub.
I've heard some people dislike that. Some people do like it.
I've always had a good experience with it.
The one I made a mock scrape last year, the largest buck that was I have a very small piece of private that I hunt, and it's basically the only private that I do hunt. I made a mock scrape on it last scouting season. The largest buck on the property found it and started using it almost immediately, and then he frequented it every south wind, and every time I went and checked my camera that was on it, I would pee in it, and he burned it up every time. So it didn't deter him at all. He wasn't. Now he's not an 8-year-old bruiser. I mean, I estimated him at 3. He's either a big 2-year, like a giant 2-year-old, or I think he's a 3-year-old. Yeah, honestly.
But back on that potential hub scrape we found in that area that we jumped that hen, I think that's a really good place. I actually thought about going to it this weekend, maybe putting a trail camera on that hub if I have time. I don't know if I'm gonna have time or not. Yeah, but we found some potential there, and of course, nearby there where we hunted that swamp a little bit, I think that's a good place to look at too.
Yeah, if we can get through there. The only thing I'm worried about that is scouting the swamp through because it's so green, and then it was rough in the spring.
It was rough in the spring. Couldn't see the swamp hardly at all.
Yeah,
but I think I found a back way into it.
Okay,
and we'll go. I think we'll go in that way because I think it's going to be a little bit better. I'll show you on the e-scouting.
Yeah, and for anybody that's not around our area, swamps aren't as frequent.
No,
it's not a common thing that I know up north. A lot of guys and down south, obviously too. But where we're at in the mountains, it's very, very mountainous.
When you find a swamp, and this is just experience I found. When you find a swamp in the mountains, it might be worth taking a second.
Oh yeah,
because there's not a lot of swamps around here. Yeah, it's either steep mountains and there's not a lot of fields. There's not a lot of flat land. It's just mostly mountains, and you may find a creek bed in there that's kind of gotten stagnant and turned a little swampy.
Yeah,
And
that's
what we're
it.
talking about. When we're
Yeah.
saying swamp, we're not saying like the Everglades.
Yeah.
We're saying like a creek bed that's kind of like settled and spread out in the
Yeah.
surrounding dirt.
And we don't have, in reference to our scouting, just for people's knowledge that might not be from our area, we don't have ag too, because I know a lot of people, even in the mountains, like have ag up either up high or down low or wherever they're at. We have little to none. The only ag people have is on their private property.
Yeah, there's
and
no public ag.
there's no public ag.
At least not in this part of Virginia.
Yes, and that's what I'm talking about. Just specifically to our scouting and how we're doing, just so people know, we don't scout. So like when we're talking about scouting, we're trying to find where Buck's sleeping, what scrape he likes to use, because that's their telephone booth, and where's his food.
Right.
So in our reference to the food around here, there's no ag for us to scout or like, or try to find the route to the ag, right? Or so we're looking for acorns, probably 90% of the time, if not,
of the time.
yeah. I mean the majority of them acorns, and then whatever browse once the acorns fall.
I think we talked about it once, not on the podcast, but the biggest problem I've had with acorns, I actually talked to somebody at work about this because he was talking about the podcast, and I said the problem with hunting for acorns is if you have a good harvest, like a lot of trees are dropping it, that's great because the deer have plenty to eat, but you don't know which trees they're eating on.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be hunting right over a white oak that's dropping acorns, and
Yeah.
there may never be a deer show up because they're over on the next ridge eating
Yeah,
on
because there's
those.
one that's sweeter.
Yeah, there's
You
one
know,
that's sweeter,
we have
or
no
it's
idea.
just closer to their bedding.
Exactly.
But now if you have a bad acorn harvest, and when I mean by a bad acorn harvest, like I think oak trees, like they drop their acorns every 2 years.
Yeah, every so many years they
And
have like a
it's-
bad or a good.
And it's not like every tree drops the same time
Yep.
every year. Like you could have thousands drop one year and have millions of drop the next year.
So from all the people that know way more about it than I do, there's no rhyme or like they don't know why and when. It's just
I think
they do it.
Weather, temperature,
Yeah.
and based on the nutrients. It's the same thing with like any other animal. It's how many nutrients they get throughout the year.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, I've always had the best luck, and sounds really weird when we have bad acorn harvest.
Yeah, probably because they have to move more.
You're easier to find the food source because when you find a tree that is dropping acorns,
Oh, that's true.
they're more likely to show
Yeah.
up. But we're gonna talk about e-scouting too, because we're just talking about summer scouting in general, and we've been using really primarily Spartan Forge, and it's a little bit of a learning curve for me. You got it a little bit better than I do dialed in, but I'm starting to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And we used it all throughout turkey season. Helped us out a lot. I like their slope angle
Yes.
colorization on it, so it kind of gives
Oh,
me
yeah.
an idea if I'm going to cry going up the mountain or if it's going to be a breezy
Yeah, he turns
walk,
that
you know?
on. I'll send him a pin, and then he'll turn that slope angle on, and then the redder it is, the more he's worried about it.
I start giving you weird faces like,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, well, we got to do it anyway.
Yeah, they're about to release their, I think it's LiDAR, so it like takes
Yeah.
away all the trees and
And
stuff.
their Blue Force.
So they're hopefully
they-
they talked about that earlier.
I listened to that. Was it on?
As a podcast.
It was on Jake Bush's, I think.
Was it?
Was it? It was on one of the podcasts.
No, that was.
You sent me the episode.
It's
link.
probably Bo's.
Yeah. Okay.
It's probably Bo Martonics. And
It
then
was.
So they're supposed to do a Blue Force tracker. So if you're in the military, you know what a Blue Force tracker is, the GPS device that all the blue forces, right? So all the good guys have, and then it's how you keep it up with each other so you don't shoot at each other, right? So that's where that comes from, because the
It's a
owner,
big safety thing.
well, the creator of Spartan Forge, though, he's ex-military.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought it was pretty neat that he named it that.
Yeah.
And it's just a simple mapping system that you can connect with your buddies, and you only connect with the people you want to. So you're not sharing your stuff with everybody in the world, and only the people you trust, right? You're hunting camp. It's really good for hunting camps. We can track each other and see where each other are. So if like one guy doesn't come back to camp and it's an hour after dark,
and he hasn't got back to us about, like I say, we don't have cell phone service.
yeah,
because-
so hopefully this will pick up. I'm hoping
Yeah.
this GPS will still pick up.
Yeah.
But say I don't come back, I don't hit camp an hour after dark. Well, Andrew checks the Blue Force tracker on Spartan Forge, and he's like, well, Zach's still exactly where he was supposed to be hunting at. There's a good chance I got a deer, right? So then it gives you an idea. Either he's hurt, I need to go in,
He's hurt, got a
or
deer,
he might have a
and we
deer,
need to go.
bear, whatever. Let's get our crap and head in, and hopefully we're packing meat out, and he's not hanging from the tree, right? From his harness or whatever.
Let's
So.
hope not.
No, I'm not too worried about that. But so that's a super cool feature. I can't wait till that comes out. And then,
the LiDAR obviously is going to be amazing.
yeah, that's sweet. And then hopefully the UAV will fly over us pretty soon. It flew over some sections of East Tennessee and then some sections above us in January.
Okay.
And Man, that
pretty good.
UAV is a game changer. I hope it flies over us so bad.
I'll have to check it out when I get it.
So
when I get
go
done
to
with
it's
this.
like you can go to like East Tennessee, and I just found a random lake. I don't know which lake it was because they have a bunch over there.
Yeah.
And I just zoomed in, and you can go to houses, and you can like tell the make and model of their car,
That's crazy.
like parked in their driveway. It's nuts.
That is crazy.
It's pretty sweet.
That is
So
pretty awesome.
hopefully the UAV only flies over so many, so often or whatever. So hopefully that'll fly over and that'd be cool.
Yeah,
But yeah, the e-scouting with the Spartan Forge is sweet. I love the 3D. I love how well the app works on my phone because I used Onyx in the past, and I know they've probably done multiple updates since I've used it, and I'm not going to trash talk them, but I noticed on the web browser there was more features than there was on your phone when I used it, right? And it was more difficult to use on my phone.
I ain't gonna lie, I use Onyx more on my computer than I do on my phone.
Okay.
Just because it sometimes it's easier to use Onyx when like we were scouting the other weekend. I had Onyx just ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's because I've been using it so much longer, I'm used to the user interface on it better. But I'm slowly getting the hang of Spartan Forge. But when I get on the computer, I usually get on Onyx and I use that to do my documentation and, and my data collection and all that stuff. But both apps are really good, and but Spartan Forge with that Blue Force tracker and that LiDAR thing, it's really
And then the journal feature.
and the journal, especially.
So
you told me about
when
the journal
if you're
feature.
using trail cams like we were doing, so when I go back in and check my trail cams and say there's a shooter buck that I want to shoot or target, and he's been there every 3 or 4 days on whatever days, right? So I can save those pictures. I can get the date and time off the picture. You can add a journal entry on Spartan Forge with the location, so that pin will be there, and you can hide the pin so it's out of the way. But you can put that pin right where it was at, the location. You add that picture so it's on your journal, and then you put the date and time that it was there, and then Spartan Forge will automatically generate what the weather was at that location at that date and that time.
Yeah.
So like that big four, that's how I knew that the wide 8 on my property, he was there every south wind because that's what I did a journal feature, and it might be a week before he showed back up us because we had like west winds all week or something,
Right.
just something weird.
But you knew every time a south wind comes in, it's like there's a good chance he's going to show up.
Exactly. And then, of course, it didn't work out with that buck or whatever, but it was mostly my fault. Oh, it was. Obviously, it's all my fault, but it's, I got an idea. I think he lived. I'm not sure if it's him or not because they're still in velvet, but there is a bruiser of a buck already in velvet that I've glassed up.
Listen, there's a quote I've always said, and I've been saying it ever since I started hunting when I was like 18 years old. 90% of all hunts is luck. The rest is up to the deer.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Maybe 1% is you.
Yeah, but so hopefully he does good, and whether it's him or not, I don't care because that buck, I'm excited about that buck. I'm actually going to try and get him on. Yeah, so either way, that big bruiser, I've glassed him up a couple times, but I'm going to hopefully on opener, and I've also already noticed. I know it's summertime, and they're going to switch a little bit, and I'll pay attention to that. But it's a field that it's kind of a field, but I can glass it up from a pretty easy location that I don't intrude. So I want to keep glass on him and see when he goes hard horned, and then keep a real close eye on him in September. But I actually threw a camera up there today, and it's right where the whole herd of deer actually has been coming out, and it should catch most of them. And I actually plan on hunting. The first time ever I'll hunt out of a blind. But I'm going to set brush a blind in right there, and mainly because it's private property, and I can have that option. Nobody's going to mess with it.
Right.
But two, there's not really many good trees right there. Like if I was in that position on public land, I would have to hunt off the ground.
Yeah.
Because there's no good trees.
I'm about to say that's sometimes an option. Like, you may think that just because we live in the Appalachian Mountains in the middle of nowhere, you may find a good deer sign, but there may not be nothing to set up a tree stand or a saddle in.
Hunting public, Zach Farrenbaugh, he's proved that
he
time
hunts
and time
from the
again.
ground almost all the time.
So you want to? They got some cool stuff. Don't take no notes from me when it comes to that. I've never done it, so I'm not going to claim to. I'm just saying if you want to learn how to do that, it is possible. But so I'm going to do that. I'm going to take one of my sons with me and just see. And I can tell you right now, if that big buck don't walk out, if there is any deer in the field, which there usually is, biggest doe's getting at least an arrow. I won't say stuck, but I'll throw an arrow at her anyway.
Meat in the freezer. That's all.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So
that's primarily what October is for me anyway. It's just a chance to get some doe meat, and then if a big bruiser comes along, it's done.
My goal is,
or at least I'll make an attempt.
We're going to, just so people are aware, we're going to do deer camp. Me, Andrew, and a couple other guys. in November, early November here, and we're hopefully going to do some cool campfire podcasts there for that. So that'll be some really cool
Hopefully
episodes.
we can get about. Well, I think we're technically got it scheduled out the whole deer camp. Like me and you both took off the entire week.
Yeah.
And like technically the way we worked it out is we get like 12 days in a row off. I don't think we'll be deer camping for 12 days.
The wives won't.
Wives won't allow us to do that.
I got it off at work, but I did not get it off from the wife.
So we might get one every night. So we might be lucky to get 4 or 5, depending on how deer camp
we'll
goes.
see. Yeah, see how
We'll see how the camp goes.
Yeah, but if anything, maybe the last night we'll just do like a 1 or 2 hour rant.
Oh yeah,
and then maybe have some random long episodes.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be
some
cool
good stuff.
So,
But
yeah, get your cameras out. The way I'm going to plan on doing it is hopefully get the rest of them out within a week or so, and then just check them once a month before season, and then I'll check them again early September, and then I won't go back in.
I try to check mine
my spots.
about. Now this is my personal property. I check mine about every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
but now all my public cameras I'm almost set out. I'll probably wait about a month.
Yeah, that's my goal.
And then usually as soon as youth weekend's over, I may check them that youth weekend or like right after youth weekend because they're already going to be pressured.
Yeah.
And then that week before, pull them all and then leave them alone.
That's actually true too, because in Virginia, if you are where we are, because I know it's different throughout the state, but that Monday and Tuesday after youth weekend is rifle bear. So if you choose to go out with a rifle, that would be a good day to go out and just walk and check your cameras. And if anything, like you said, there's already going to be pressure in the woods anyway.
And during our little scouting trip, we actually saw a bear.
Yeah.
When we were walking out. So I may even go bear hunting those 2 days, at least just to give me an extra chance to be in the woods.
Well, I mean, I might just grab my rifle and take off. If I see a good bear, I'll shoot it. And which I'll have to check. Can we use bows? If we have bows, I might take my bow.
I don't think there's anything that says you can't, but I'll double check.
We'll double check that.
Double check on the
I
regs.
might just take. You can take your rifle. I'll take my bow.
Yeah,
and then
helps us out either way.
There's been some people out there don't know or whatever. I've walked up within bow range of bears multiple times.
I had an encounter last year up at I'll say where I was at because it's up near Bark Camp Lake up near Scott County. I was sitting up there. It's on YouTube.
Oh, there's a bear everywhere there.
It's on.
Bark Camp's full of bear.
It's full of bear. But yeah, I was hearing squirrels all day, and I was like, God, those squirrels are getting it. Like I thought they were like mating or something like that. And next thing I know, a big old black bear, maybe 150 pounds, nothing super big.
Yeah.
And he came within 45 yards of me, and I'm like, ooh, this is tempting. I was getting ready to, but I was like, man, he's not big enough for me to work.
That's what I might do. I might walk around with my bow and see if I can get a bear, and or if not, then I go just do one big loop around our spots and check cameras.
Yeah. So what we're saying is, if you want to find out what the deer are doing, it's a great idea. Put some trail cameras out. You can get trail cameras. I'm not going to advocate any one particular brand, but you can find trail cameras, good trail cameras. I've used them before on Amazon for as little as $30, and you can find good cell cameras for relatively good prices too.
Yeah.
Check with your local hunting shops, bow supply shops like Beverly's down here in Coburn. They'll sell you some good trail cameras. He'll recommend what you need to. But if you don't have that kind of money, Amazon sells some good trail cameras that I've used. I set them up one time on my grandma's property, and I just got lazy and didn't go get them. Left them up there for a year. 5,000 pictures in a year, and they still had plenty of battery left.
There you go.
So that's pretty good.
And even if you don't want to do trail cameras at all, you don't have to. Just get some boot leather on the grounds.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Get out in the woods.
Yep, get out and walk.
Look for sign, look for rubs, look for scrapes. And once you can identify the scrapes and kind of see the worn down paths in the woods, you can kind of figure out, pretty much can figure out what the deer you're doing.
Yep.
But I hope y'all enjoyed this little short episode about e-scouting and some summer scouting, and we'll catch you on the next episode, guys.
Yeah.